This is a cheeky sort of video that I'm just making for my dear vegan friends who have been sort of brainwashed by the misanthropic ideology that they subscribe to. This is a bit of a tip to anyone who's got a friend, a vegan friend. They can shoot them a link to this. A bit of a tip how they can improve their, anemia and iron status. Now let's get going. I'll just share the other screen. Okay, so just to cover a few points. This is plasma and urine taurine levels in vegans. So we'll just read the abstraction because I've got no access to this old study, unfortunately. Tried to get access, but I couldn't actually, even through that university account that I've got. So it doesn't, unfortunately. Anyway, plasma taurine levels and urinary taurine excretion were measured in 12 strict vegetarian/vegans, males who had maintained a vegan diet for 53 plus or minus 26 month. On the other ones on the standard, and in 12 male non-vegetarian control subjects. Okay, so we've got two groups. Plasma levels differed. So obviously the taurine level is much lower in the vegans versus the actual omnivores. Urinary taurine excretion was lower compared to the omnivores, obviously, because the body's trying to hold on as much as for dear life as much as it can. And methyl histidine was barely detectable. Now, just a quick view on histidine, very important amino acid used to make proteins, enzymes, protein little machines as well, but also general protein. Then you've got the enzymes as well in the body. Sometimes it's referred to semi-essential amino acid because it is non-essential in adults because it actually can be created by the essential amino acid pool. Then, but essential in the diet of infants and those with a kidney disorder called uranemia. Anyway, now let's just get back to that. Just to cover that point, that was just a bit of a stab at them in regards to that. Cheap shot, yeah, I know. Anyway, analysis of 3D dietary kept by vegans, 3-day, that is indicated marginal to adequate intake of protein, carbohydrates, vitamin B6, methionine, cysteine, inadequate intake of zinc, we know that, not enough animal foods, negligible intake of taurine, we know that because it's an animal-based amino acid. Prolonged absence of dietary taurine intake causes decreased plasma taurine and severely restricted urinary taurine output. So their bodies tend to hold on, but still they will have much lower levels compared to omnivores, let alone carnivores. So anyway, let's move on. So just some additional sort of to cover a few points. One thing that some of the literature has been showing is by adding iron supplementation, I'm going to show that information doesn't really improve, in any significant way, sort of hemoglobin or red blood cell count or the iron status in people, because there's a lot of vegans out there that are using iron supplements, but they're basically really not doing much for them, unfortunately, because there are other components to the story. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, so let's go back to this one. Just go to the abstract. So this is the European Journal of Hematology, possible amelioration effects of taurine in the treatment of iron deficiency anemia in female university students of Gaza, Palestine. So we're looking at girls in that sort of part of the world. Now, I can't get the whole study, unfortunately, which really annoys me. Again, it's one of those things that's not part of my sort of access that I've got. So I'll just have to look at the abstraction, that we'll have to do is provide some information. People can get access, somebody can get access, good luck to them. The aim of the study was to evaluate the hematological effects of adding the antioxidant taurine to iron sulfate in the treatment of iron deficiency anemia. A sample of 730 students from Al-Azhar University, Gaza in Palestine underwent screening and complete blood count and serum samples in subjects with microcystosis and hypochromasia. So they looked at the alpha-2, delta-2, or it's called HbA2, and the serum concentration of iron as a total binding capacity. So, and then ferritin as well, and taurine was determined. Samples from 17 normotic and more normal chromatic and non-anemic subjects. So they're looking at different types of population groups, obviously, were used as baseline controls. The problem is I don't have, they're talking about the 70 subjects, but exactly how they break up, I don't really know. At the baseline, 81 of the 730 subjects, 11.1 had microcystosis and hypochromasia. 26 were diagnosed with beta thalassemia carriers, so they had this, the sickle cell type stuff. None of which was iron deficient. Anyway, 4 subjects had microcytosis of unknown cause, so they don't know the reason for it. 51 subjects, female, had iron deficiency anemia and were included in the therapeutic study, which lasted for 20 weeks. There was a match of HB into pairs that were treated with iron, oral iron, 325 milligrams of a slow release iron sulfate. So, and there was, in addition, in a double-blind procedure, randomized to additional oral taurine of 100 milligrams daily. So that's 1 gram at a cost comparable to that of adding ascorbic acid. So apparently, in that part of the world, ascorbic acid at the same quantity is basically a similar price. So or placebo. Interesting. Anyway, means S-taurine was significantly lower in the IDA subjects. So that's the ones that are iron deficient anemia. Then in the control, for 20 days with iron supplementation, both the taurine and placebo groups significantly improved their HB concentrations and normalize the markers of iron deficiency. Apart from the expected a bit in this study, mild side effects of oral iron. So I've known that people having different sort of side effects of supplemental stuff. It's one reason why we in the carnivore community don't have to worry about that. No significant side effects were noted. So in the taurine group, there was statistically significant additive positive changes from baseline value. So there was a substantial difference in when we're looking at the serum sort of levels. So 2.67, and in the The placebo group, in terms of serum levels of iron, we're talking about 1.8. When we look at the red blood cell count, we're looking at 0.57. And when we're looking at the placebo group, it's basically 0.39. So we see a substantial. Then serum ferritin, we're looking at 30.33. And in the placebo group that didn't get the taurine, 20.11. So you can already see there's a substantial, in terms of storage, 50% increase in iron storage, which is good. Oral taurine appears to increase the effectiveness of oral iron in the treatment of iron deficiency anemia and has no significant side effects. This merits further cost benefit and clinical analysis. The reason why they talk about cost benefit is because you're actually talking about Palestine in the Gaza Strip, very poor population. So for them, what gives you more bang for your buck is the important thing here. So they see, well, if you're using ascorbic acid, same sort of price. There's a lot of talk about, using ascorbic acid, but, vegans are basically fucking supplementing themselves to death with ascorbic acid, let alone all their foods are full of vitamin C, supposedly, but they're still very anemic. So I don't really think that that it basically plays that big a role. Obviously, if you're actually consuming a lot of carbohydrates, that could be inhibiting the effects of the vitamin C. But a lot of the other studies that talk about vitamin C are all associational. So is it a real effect? Who fucking knows? Because I've never seen a clinical study where they've actually just basically given iron supplements and vitamin C together, nothing else, to basically cause any confounding effects. So until something like that comes along, I'm not convinced it's associational. But here we can actually see quite clear a dose response improvement. So there now, obviously, it is synthesized from methionine and cysteine. So the option for, obviously, there is a level of deficiency in terms of methionine, in particular from the vegan diet, because they don't eat meat, they don't eat animal products. So there's going to be slight deficiency there. And as a consequence, they really, really need to look at things like a supplemental. Now, you can get taurine in a vegan form where they get methionine, cysteine from primarily, and they combine it in a lab. They get it from basically plant-based sources. Welcome to the modern world of chemistry and lab-made supplements. So as an option for them is to up their taurine levels to improve their iron status. Would be a good thing. We don't want them basically suffering anemia in that regard. Anyway, this is another where they're actually looking at, again, this is in Palestine, Gaza Strip. They're looking at basically kindergarten children, and where I'm not going to go through the damn study, but they do reference the other study that I talked about, which is there. There's a study about and here they talk about treatment of iron deficiency is simple and inexpensive, especially through oral route, but may be hampered by some gastrointestinal inconveniences. Several components have been added to the standard iron formulation in order to enhance iron absorption. Combination of iron and vitamin C, it probably helps, but again, as I said, it's associational. Vitamin A plays a role. We know zinc plays a role, but again, a lot of that is, all those are associational primarily. And taurine has been shown to more effective in restoring hemoglobin levels, so HB levels, than iron alone. So basically what they saw was an improvement of HB in terms of the hemoglobin status. So your red blood cells are carrying better iron. So obviously, you know, your oxygen status is going to be better as well in that regard. So that's the information to help out our dear vegan friends who basically may be able to use a vegan sourced taurine as a biohack supplement to improve their anemia status. So basically that's just my little contribution to our dear vegetated friends who are basically suffering from anemia, a little biohack, add a bit of supplemental taurine into your diet to improve your status. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and information. See ya.